Happy New Year to all of you who work with federal public lands. It is a new decade for all of us. It is a new decade for Woods Institute. Hi, my name is Dr. Patricia Woods, president of Woods Institute based in Washington, D.C. I've been providing classes on the public policy making process in Washington for over 35 years to federal public servants. The purpose of Woods Institute has been to demystify government processes so that you as citizens may once again feel ownership of your government. An understanding of these processes will give you the tools and the confidence to participate more fully in civic life in America, which is sorely lacking today. My doctorate is in American history. Thus, I appreciate the richness of the culture and history of each of your agencies. Although my classes focus largely on the public policy process, I also bring a historical perspective to my classes concerning the policy changes over time that have affected your work. Initially, let me say how valuable it has been to me that your agency's leadership in Washington at the state and regional levels and at the field staff level have been supportive both of Woods Institute courses that have taken place in Washington, on Capitol Hill, and across the country. I have taught and worked with thousands of federal civil servants such as you. I thank you for your continued interest and participation. Despite the current anti-government political climate in our country, you, as professional career civil servants, are the backbone of your agency's government operations. Your professionalism, experience, judgment, and sense of public service are more important now than ever before. You are the institutional memory of our government. Over the last 3 decades, I have been fortunate to volunteer in the field for your agencies on wild and scenic river survey teams, passport in time archaeological projects, major government land acquisitions, and international forestry meetings. Whether I was sitting around evening campfires with your colleagues in the wilderness or digging for Native American artifacts, I realized how extremely knowledgeable were staff I was working with. What you do matters, not only to the natural world, but significantly to the American people, their elected officials, and their staff at the federal, state, and local level. We are all part of the natural world, but you truly understand it and the threats to its sustainability. Over the past 35 years, Woods Institute has provided hundreds of seminars, webinars, and numerous presentations to the national and regional leadership teams and field staff of the USDA Forest Service, the National Park Service, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Bureau of Land Management, explaining the policy process that makes the laws affecting your agency's work. Woods Institute utilizes 3 main delivery methods for our courses. First, on-site courses on the current Congress based on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Speakers include members of Congress, Hill staff, and lobbyists from NGOs who work with your specific agency and its issues. They also include leaders from your agency's budgetary and legislative affairs staffs. Secondly, client-located field classes. Woods Institute offers 3-hour presentations on the current Congress at regional and state leadership meetings. There are also 2-day classes that have taken place in Philadelphia and Boston for the National Park Service, Atlanta and Sacramento for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Milwaukee and Knoxville for the USDA Forest Service, Boise for the Bureau of Land Management, and interagency classes that took place as recently as November of last year in Anchorage and Portland, Oregon. The list is not comprehensive, but indicative of the outreach of our mission. Finally, webinars delivered to your place of work or home on the current political scene in Washington, D.C. With the beginning of the Trump administration in 2017, Woods Institute held webinars for the Forest Service, the National Park Service, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Bureau of Land Management that featured the new administration and the 115th Congress. And in June of 2019, after the 2018 midterm congressional elections, the Northeast region of the National Park Service hosted a webinar on the 116th Congress and the National Park Service. Since 2007, the National Conservation Training Center of Shepherdstown, West Virginia, has contracted with Woods Institute to provide congressional operations training for staff from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. In addition to the usual speakers who spoke about general congressional operations, there was also a scholar from the Congressional Research Service of the Library of Congress who addressed the group on the Fish and Wildlife Service and natural resource issues in the 116th Congress. Both majority and minority committee staff who worked for the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works also participated in the program. They followed the issue of endangered species. Fish and Wildlife Service agency representatives on this program were Chris Nolan, the Director of the Office of Budget, and Marty Kotis, Director of the Office of Congressional Affairs. Woods Institute thanks you for your interest in and support of our past programs and looks forward to working with all of your agencies in the years to come. The need for your expertise, professionalism, and service for the public lands of the United States is now greater than ever.